Hi, you might have noticed, or possibly not, that I got retweeted by the Guild Wars 2 Twitter account earlier on today. Suffice to say, it was an education for me. My Twitter feed exploded and I found out that a rather large and vocal section of the Guild Wars 2 community are not best pleased with the Heart of Thorns expansion pre-orders. Well, we'd expect most of them to be jumping for joy. There's a very vocal group of people who have some particular issues with it. Over the course of the afternoon, I found out that it kind of breaks down as follows. There are a bunch of you that are particularly perturbed by the high cost of the expansion. It comes in at a base cost of £35 in the UK, it's $50. Reasonably, this is pretty much the standard rate for an MMO expansion. Wards of Draenor right now, Blizzard's latest expansion, is still at £35. The Final Fantasy Heavensward expansion is £45 for a PC digital download version. Hell knows how much the collector's physical copy is, that's probably a ridiculous amount. But the point is, it's a fairly standard cost for an expansion for any PC MMORPG. Even Blizzard's Blackrock Mountain for Hearthstone comes in at around, what, £20? It's not an unreasonable amount of money to pay. And bearing in mind that we all paid around the £40 to £50 mark for Guild Wars 2. Some of us paid well over that with the collector's edition about maybe 2.5+ years ago now. Reasonably, we've not paid a subscription, or you've certainly not had to anyway. So paying that much over that length of time doesn't equate to the same sort of cost as paying a subscription. That might be the reason you don't play World of Warcraft, but at the end of the day, the argument's still valid. And the last expansion I paid for probably was back when Aeon was out, so we're talking roughly around 2000, and at £35 then, if you take the CPI inflation index in the UK into account, which is about 2% a year, you're talking a £35 expansion, which has been the fairly standard cost for expansions over the years, would now cost you around £50. There are a number of people that question the value that they're going to get out of this. I mean, they don't necessarily know how much content there's going to be in the game, and that's a fair point. Right now, we don't know how much content is going to be in the game. We have the betas to go by, but we haven't seen all of even one map really right now. But if you don't necessarily know how much you're going to get out of the game, don't pre-order it. You don't need to pre-order the game, and that sounds a little standoffish, but I'm not pre-ordering the game. I'm pre-ordering a physical copy when we find out about the physical copies in the UK, and I have concrete information on that. But until I can get a box copy, I'm not pre-ordering the digital copy. That's a risk you take with any expansion, or in fact with any game. Sometimes you're going to get more of it, sometimes you're going to get less. Heart of Thorns is going to have, we know at least, one new zone with 3 levels of content. So based on the old traditional zones, we're probably talking about a couple of zones worth of content. That's a lot of content still. Moving on though, we got a lot of people who were complaining, well, they were just envious, basically. That's the only way I can put it. Due to a rather unfortunate turn of phrase on the ArenaNet blog posts and the pre-order website, it led players to believe that the Heart of Thorns expansion was the base game and the expansion all rolled into one. Realistically, that probably should have been messaged as the Heart of Thorns expansion is the expansion, and the rest of the world is unlocked for those of you that do not already own the game. It was never really the intention for ArenaNet to go ahead and swindle its players. Now, this has spawned a lot of, they're getting something, they're new players, what am I getting? I'm a veteran player. You're getting the past couple of years of content, living story that they will have to pay for if they want to catch up with the living story. You're getting all that for nothing because you've already had it. But I don't think this is down to a case of favouring the new players and hating the old players. This is never going to be the case with ArenaNet. They need you to pay their bills, and you need them to keep producing content, so why would they do this? Well, think about it. All MMORPG populations, they tend to decline. That's just their general nature. They'll spike with expansions, but even Warlords of Draenor isn't saving WoW's decline. So, do you encourage new players into the game? Do you give them an extra barrier after they've finished the first lot of content? Do you give them an extra barrier and say, right, you paid that money, pay it again a few months later? It's a huge barrier to entry for them, and reasonably it stops new players coming into the game. It stops ArenaNet from being able to sell those character slots that you've already bought and those bank tabs that you've already bought to those new players. They sell those items to new players, they keep bringing in money, they keep making content for you and for them. It also stops the community from dividing. Division is clearly going to occur if you have new players just buying a core game and veteran players who have moved on to the expansion. If you divide your community, you're further diluting the players that you get to play with on a day-to-day basis. ArenaNet's never taken that approach. They've always taken the approach that everyone should be happy to see everyone and that things should be inclusive. That's why you're getting things like trait changes, you're getting things like Stronghold, you're getting things like a new World v World map that I believe they're not going to be relying on the new expansion pack. The new expansion is going to primarily be based on the Mugima Jungle content. So with all these new systems coming in, why would they divide their population and cause more divisions? It doesn't make any logical sense. So while you go to the Guild Wars 2 pre-order page, you'll find that you can't just buy Guild Wars 2 anymore. You can just buy Heart of Thorns. The reason being, Heart of Thorns is part of Guild Wars 2 now. Those players that are going to be coming in new to the game, they're going to be part of the Guild Wars 2 community. You want that community to stay together. You want new players to want to continue to play the game. Hopefully you agree with me. Hopefully you can handle the fact that ArenaNet might be making a few more dollars from digital sales, or that you feel like you shouldn't have to pay, or that you feel envious of someone else getting something that you paid for several years ago. These aren't huge issues really, and the benefits far outweigh the problems that have been thrown up this afternoon on my Twitter feed. Most importantly, you want to be happy to see anyone that you play with in Tyria. So why would you want to force someone to have to jump an extra barrier to come in and fight Mordremoth with you? Right, I'm off to actually sit down and write something about this, hopefully. So thanks for watching, and feel free to leave any comments or abuse below.